Hola mi gente, welcome back to my channel. My name is Joanna and I just love making videos talking about anything and everything I love, including books. In today's video, I wanted to go over some books that were unexpected reads. These are books that I do not normally go for, that were either recommended or really hyped up, and I finally got curious enough to go and get the books. Today, our weather is finally super cozy, but I'm here with my super basic milk tea boba tea. So I'm gonna be drinking some tea while I talk to you about this. Oh, so good. Okay, the next book I absolutely have to talk about because this one was super weird. It takes place in the future. I don't really like to read future stuff. It's post-apocalyptic, which I do like to read, and it's very rare to find these days, but it's post-apocalyptic. I guess it was labeled as Gen Z-ish, which is so funny because I am not Gen Z. So that book is Cake Eater, and it is also a retelling. So basically my taste, or my knowledge of my taste, is a lie. Cake Eater is a retelling of Marie Antoinette. This book, I think I also really enjoyed because I just like Marie Antoinette's story. I had an amazing opportunity to go to Versailles, and when I saw Marie Antoinette up and her portrait and everything just flooded back in my mind. Like, I actually loved learning about Marie Antoinette. I had the most amazing history teacher who would actually dress up like people from the past and then tell us their story or whoever they served. So for Marie, my teacher actually dressed up like her chambermaid and told us the real story of Marie Antoinette, because my teacher made sure that we knew the real history and didn't just read off of textbooks or anything. I actually knew that Marie Antoinette was poorly set up for her real life. She was supposed to bring two rivaling kingdoms together at the age of 14, 15, sent to this foreign land where they hated Austrians, and she was Austrian, and she was supposed to be their next queen and basically bring France into a new prosperous era, which is really hard to follow because the previous king was so beloved to that kingdom. And again, she's Austrian and there's a lot of Austrian sentiment in France at the time. This book is basically the same thing, and in this story we are actually in this post-apocalyptic world. Really, there are really no natural resources there. You don't really see deer running around. There's no grass, it's not really vibrant, and the air isn't the best. In this world, there are androids everywhere. Just AI technology is really advanced. Everywhere in the palace in Austria is covered in some form of neon lights. This all happened after basically climate change got so bad that we ran out of water, and these kingdoms ended up fighting for the small water resources. They all basically tore each other apart, and now the records of that history, the records of what we actually know right now, are all missing. Or are they? Marie herself doesn't entirely know what happened for the world to be this way, because she is, the daughter of an empress from a powerful kingdom. She's very sheltered. So she is sent to France to still marry Louis and hopefully keep the monarchy alive. She's again this teenage girl, really young, because technology is so advanced and the life of influencers lives on in this era. Marie has a pretty big following on her social media. It's honestly really clever. There's a lot in here that I think our generation and definitely Gen Z could connect with, because social media is very alive. The influencer life is very alive. There's a lot of advanced technology in this, to the point where even people in here start getting worried about some AI technology. I love that the author really took the true story of what happened to Marie in real life and just set it in this futuristic post-apocalyptic story with a lot of mystery. There is a lot hidden from her. There's a lot filtered in her phone. There's a lot on the internet she cannot access, so she doesn't actually know the state of the country she's meant to rule, which the real Marie was also kept in the shadows a lot, and Louis. I love this book. It's such a slow burn romance too between Louis and Marie, like the real Louis and Marie. It also has a male main character who's nerdy, shy, and introverted. We don't really see that often. We normally see main characters that are tortured, like Ren, or that are tall, dark, and handsome and mysterious, like Dante, and who have this humor to them where they can be witty and clever. Louis is not like that. Louis is very introverted, very shy, but he is so sweet, grows into his own. I don't know, I just love Louis. This book actually made me cry. There's a specific scene in here where I felt like I was sobbing reading it. And I just couldn't believe it's true, but they're just some things that authors do to us where we just have to accept it's true. Basically, if you can make me cry, you can make me feel like that. 5 stars, baby, 5 stars. You should just give it a shot. I did not think I'd like this cyberpunk Matrix-like retelling of Marie Antoinette, but it was really fun and I had to know more of what was going on. Now, last but not least is Cemetery Boys. I hold this book close to my heart, close to my soul. This book is absolutely beautiful. Also had me tearing up in so many parts. But anyway, what made this a different read for me is, again, urban fantasy, paranormal romance, and that's like, how can you, I don't know, they're a ghost. What can you do with that? That was just my thought. Anyway, so it's a paranormal, para-romance, it's urban setting, but more importantly, it focuses on Latinx culture and a Latinx character. So I actually haven't come across a lot of Latinx reads or Latinx fantasy. I have to say Latinx fantasy is what I don't normally read, and it's not because I don't want to, it's because where were they? I started reading at a very, very young age, but if we go into the normal teenager years, like 13 and on, there were no books that had a Latina protagonist or a Latinx family that, you know, it was centered around. I grew up with Tris from Divergent and Luce from Fallen, and they were all just white characters, and that's fine. I mean, I still enjoyed my books and everything, but that's the thing about representation, is sometimes you don't realize the impact until you finally get it. And I got it with this book. So in this book, we have a character named Yadriel who comes from a traditional Latinx family, and their pronouns are he, him, but his family is not accepting of his gender and who he says he is. Yadriel also comes from a community of brujex, and in this community you have brujos who help spirits cross over to their afterlife, and brujas who help heal people or animals. They're just healers. So in Yadriel's case, they were supposed to be a bruja, but they know who they are. They are he, him. They are a brujo, and they know it in their bones. They are a brujo. And so they go off on this adventure trying to prove to their family that they are who they say they are, you know, having the blessing from La Santa Muerte and from the ritual that he does with his troublemaking cousin. He can prove to his family that he is brujo material and that this is his identity. I had the pleasure of meeting Aiden Thomas, and really the number one thing I wanted to tell this author was thank you for not translating, because when I started reading this book, I noticed it had Spanish in it, and as I was reading I was like, okay, just probably gonna be a few lines to translate things. Okay, let's move on. This part won't be for me. And I quickly realized that Aiden was not translating any of the Spanish, and I was like, okay, so that means I can just keep going with the flow of the story. That's different. I told Aiden that I'm just so used to having to explain myself. You know, if we're writing that grandma is blasting Tejano music at 10 a.m. on a Saturday and you get the hint and smell of fabuloso, it's like you have to explain why that's important or what does that mean. And Aiden did not explain our culture in this book or translate or anything. And it just made it so beautiful because it just was. It was normal. There was nothing foreign or strange about it. There was no need to translate or explain. So this book is also so unique because the author ties identity to magic in a way I've never seen before, where magic is used to really set someone's identity. It also has a love story, of course. In this book, when Yadriel comes into his brujo power, he tries to summon his cousin to see what happened to his cousin, and ends up summoning Julian, this really loud, fun, troublemaking ghost who didn't realize he had died, and now they're stuck with him. And of course things brew. They brew between Julian and Yadriel, and it just unfolds into this really beautiful, intimate story. I don't normally gush at romance scenes because I'm like, ugh, that's a little cheesy, let's move on. But I have to say that the romance scenes in this book, specifically one chapter that was my most favorite chapter in the whole book, I definitely gushed. I was really excited for the main characters. It was so sweet and so intimate, and I'm just so glad that Aiden wrote this book. And I definitely thanked Aiden for writing this book and hoped they continue to write more books that are Latinx fantasy. At the back of this book, I read that Aiden didn't even consider writing a fantasy that was actually about their culture, and that just really stuck with me too, because I'm so used to fantasy stories being centered around white characters, and that's just the truth. That's, again, what I grew up with. That was the only thing that I really had available to me. That also blew my mind, that I was like, oh yeah, you could just write around your culture and who you are, and with your language or with your other language. It's just so beautiful. So thank you, shout out to Aiden Thomas. Really gorgeous book, really lovely read, something unexpected, and I'm so happy I picked it up. I still have so much tea left. Thank you for sticking by me here. I'm still trying to get the hang of this, on how to talk about all of these things. I'm like that crazy meme guy who has all of the strings on the board and just wants to like explain everything, but it's just freaking you out instead. Let me know if you like boba, what your flavor is. I didn't actually try the original milk tea until years later. It is so good, and I don't know why I waited so long to actually try it. So